The winter wind sliced across the open platform, carrying the metallic scent of iron and diesel. My fingers were stiff from the cold as I clutched the strap of my worn leather bag tighter. I wasn't shivering from the weather, though. It was from the sting of humiliation. "Did you hear me, Ava?" My father's voice snapped across the crowd. "You can't even afford a ticket. What are you even doing here?" His tone drew glances. Strangers looked up, their eyes flicking from his tailored wool coat to my thrift store jacket. My stepsister, Lily, stood beside him in her pristine white trench coat, her lips curling into a smirk that could cut glass. "Oh, Dad," she said, pretending to whisper. She probably thought standing near first-class passengers would make her look rich. Their laughter echoed louder than the train whistle. I didn't respond. I couldn't, because every word they said, every public jab, every mocking smile, had been sharpened over years of being the unwanted one. The one left behind after my mother died. The one my father didn't have time to deal with. I stared at their matching suitcases, embossed with gold initials, CL. Charles and Lily. Perfect. The golden duo. "Maybe you can sweep the floors in third class," Lily taunted. "If they even let you on." Her voice dripped with honey and poison. She turned toward the platform guard, flashing her boarding pass like it was a crown jewel. The guard nodded respectfully and guided them toward the first-class compartment, gleaming brass trim, glass doors, velvet curtains. I stayed silent, my nails digging into my palms. My heart pounded, but not from shame anymore, from something colder, calmer. "Enjoy the ride," I said quietly. They didn't even look back. The train whistle screamed through the air as I stood on that cracked platform, surrounded by passengers who either looked away or watched with silent pity. My father and Lily stepped inside their luxury carriage, laughing like royalty boarding a private yacht. Then, just as I was about to walk away, I heard a low, commanding voice behind me. "Miss Taylor?" I turned. A tall man in a crisp navy uniform stood there, polished shoes, silver badges gleaming, posture straight as steel. His face was familiar, but I couldn't place it. The crowd around us hushed slightly as his presence carried authority. "Yes?" I asked, wary. He checked his clipboard, then looked me in the eye. "Your carriage is ready." My brow furrowed. "My carriage?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, stepping aside and motioning down the platform. "We've been waiting for you." Confused murmurs rippled through the air. I followed his gesture, and my breath caught. A long, black luxury train carriage glided silently toward the platform, its polished metal gleaming like liquid gold under the station lights. The emblem on the side, a golden crest in the shape of a phoenix, shone like fire. Every uniformed staff member straightened as it approached. The air changed. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. The train didn't belong to the public line. It was private, exclusive, the kind that carried senators, billionaires, and names whispered with reverence. I froze as the carriage halted in front of me. The golden emblem reflected in my eyes. I knew that symbol. It was the mark of Harrington Rail Holdings, my late mother's company, and I was the legal inheritor. The attendant stepped forward again, his voice respectful now. "Ms. Ava Taylor, your mother's estate authorized your exclusive travel for today. I apologize for the delay." My father's laughter died instantly. From the first-class window, I saw Lily's perfect smile collapse, her mouth hanging open. My father leaned closer to the glass, confusion twisting into disbelief. "Well, what is this?" he muttered, his face pale. The guard opened the golden-trimmed door to my private carriage. Warm light spilled onto the platform, catching the frost on my hair. The passengers nearby parted like a wave, staring in stunned silence. The attendant nodded at me. "Whenever you're ready, Mississippi." I turned, finally meeting my father's eyes through the glass. He looked smaller now. I smiled softly, not cruelly, just with quiet strength. "I told you, Dad," I said under my breath. "Enjoy your ride." Then I stepped into the golden carriage, and the door slid shut behind me with a satisfying click. The sound echoed through the silent platform. As the train began to move, I saw them standing outside, their expressions frozen. My father's pride crushed, Lily's mockery gone. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like the abandoned one. I felt like the daughter my mother raised, not to fight loud, but to rise quietly. And as the carriage glided forward, I exhaled the years of pain I'd carried since childhood. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reminding them who I was. And they finally remembered. The door closed with a smooth metallic sigh, cutting off the noise of the station. Inside, the air was warmer, scented faintly of cedarwood and leather. I stood frozen for a moment, surrounded by gold-trimmed walls, cream-colored seats, and soft amber lights that glowed against polished brass. Every surface gleamed like something out of a dream. The attendant placed my old duffel bag on a side table and said, "If you need anything, Miss Taylor, ring the bell. Lunch will be served shortly." Then he stepped out, leaving me alone in silence. For a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat. I pressed my hand against the seat, real velvet, not the imitation kind I grew up around. The smooth hum of the rails felt almost like a heartbeat under my feet. I sat down slowly, staring at my reflection in the window. The girl staring back wasn't the quiet, pitted daughter anymore. She looked calm, centered. But beneath that calm, memories stirred. The last day I'd seen my mother alive. She'd been weak, her hands trembling, but her eyes were strong. "Never let anyone convince you you're less than what you are, Ava," she had whispered. "One day, they'll learn that silence doesn't mean weakness." I didn't understand it then. I did now. I glanced to my right. A folded envelope sat on the table beside a crystal glass of water. It was sealed with the same phoenix emblem. My pulse jumped. I tore it open carefully. Inside was a short note written in my mother's familiar handwriting. "Ava, if you're reading this, it means the carriage found you. I built this company for people who knew what it felt like to be overlooked. The world may not see you now, but when they finally do, stand tall, not above them, but beyond them." A lump formed in my throat. I traced her signature, Margaret Taylor Harrington. My mother had never bragged about her business, never mentioned she had partners, never told my father what she'd built before he remarried. And now it was all mine. The intercom crackled softly. "Miss Taylor, we'll be making a brief stop ahead at Harrington Estate. The family attorney will meet you there." My stomach tightened. I wasn't expecting to meet anyone today, especially not the estate's lawyer. But something inside me whispered that this was part of what my mother had planned. The train slowed, and outside the window, sprawling pine trees and a long cobblestone drive appeared, leading to a glass-walled mansion built along the hillside. When the carriage stopped, a man in a gray suit stood waiting on the platform. Late 50s, sharp eyes, silver hair. He introduced himself with a calm smile. "I'm Richard Cole, your mother's former counsel." I stepped out, the cold air hitting my face again, carrying the faint sound of the departing train. "Miss Taylor," he continued, "your mother left something for you. Something she wanted you to see only when you arrived here, on your own terms." He led me through wide double doors into the estate. Inside, sunlight spilled over marble floors, photographs, and paintings, all of my mother. Her smile, her eyes, her world. On the table rested a thick leather folder embossed with gold. My name was on it. Mr. Cole opened it, revealing documents, property titles, and a portfolio of shares, all under my name. My breath caught. "All of this is yours," he said simply. "She transferred ownership to you when you turned 21. She trusted you'd know when to claim it." I ran my hand over the documents, the paper trembling slightly between my fingers. The realization hit. I hadn't just stepped into a luxury carriage. I'd stepped into her legacy. Before I could speak, the distant echo of car doors slammed outside. Mr. Cole frowned. "It seems you have company." Through the tall glass windows, I saw them. My father and Lily, storming across the drive like they owned the ground. His coat was still immaculate, but his expression wasn't. "Where is she?" he barked to the attendant. "Where's my daughter?" I stood tall as the doors opened, and they stepped inside. Lily's eyes darted across the marble room, her envy thinly masked with a trembling smile. "Wow," she whispered. "So this is where Mom's money went." Dad's face was flushed with something between anger and disbelief. "You knew about this?" he demanded. I met his gaze evenly. "No." "But Mom did. And she made sure it wouldn't belong to anyone who mocked her daughter for taking the bus." He flinched. Lily folded her arms. "This is ridiculous. You don't even know how to manage an estate." "Maybe not yet," I said softly. "But I know how to build one." For a long moment, silence filled the hall. My father looked at me as if seeing me for the first time, not as the child he dismissed, but as the woman who no longer needed his approval. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't gloat. I just stood there, steady, composed, while he struggled to find words that no longer had power. Because for the first time, I didn't need him to believe in me. I already did. The moment stretched in silence. My father's voice, once so commanding, now cracked slightly. "Ava, you don't understand what's involved here. These assets, this company, your mother's business, none of it is simple. You need guidance." I stared at him. The same man who'd sneered at me for showing up at the station without a ticket now stood in my mother's mansion trying to act like a mentor. "Guidance," I said quietly. "You mean control." He opened his mouth, but the lawyer, Mr. Cole, stepped forward, holding a sealed envelope. "Actually, Mr. Taylor, Mrs. Harrington anticipated this." He handed it to me. "Your mother left one final clause, Ava. It was to be read in private, today." I took the envelope, my fingers trembling. The seal broke easily, the paper inside unfolding like a whisper from the past. My mother's handwriting filled the page. "Ava, power means nothing if it becomes revenge. You may inherit the estate, but the family business, Harrington Rail, will transfer to you only after a single condition. You must decide within 48 hours whether to forgive or to fight. If you choose to forgive, your father will retain a small share under your supervision. If you choose revenge, the company's future will rest solely in your hands, but your family will lose everything connected to it." I froze. The words hit harder than I expected. My mother had given me a choice that wasn't about money. It was about who I wanted to be. Behind me, my father muttered, "This is absurd." His voice carried that same authority he used to rule our home. "She's manipulating you from the grave." Lily laughed under her breath. "Please, Ava, just hand it over. You're not built for boardrooms. You'd embarrass yourself." I turned slowly toward them. The old me would have stayed quiet. The girl who used to hide in her room whenever they mocked her. But standing in that golden hall, surrounded by everything my mother built from nothing, I realized something. Silence wasn't weakness. It was the sound of power gathering its breath. "You're right," I said. "I'm not built for boardrooms. I'm built for rebuilding." Lily blinked, confused. "I choose to forgive," I said finally, my voice steady. "Not because you deserve it, but because I do. I won't carry your bitterness any longer." My father's eyes widened. You're serious?" "Yes," I said. "You'll keep a share under my supervision. But from now on, you answer to me." For the first time in my life, he was speechless. The lawyer nodded. Then it settled. He signed the document with a quiet authority that filled the room like thunder. Lily's smirk crumbled. "You can't be serious, Dad. We're going to have to work for her." He didn't answer. He couldn't. I turned to Mr. Cole. "Send them their contracts. I'll handle the board meeting myself." As I walked toward the tall glass doors, the late afternoon sun spilled across the floor, wrapping me in light. Outside, the golden carriage gleamed where it waited. The symbol of my mother's phoenix glowed on its side, bright and steady. I paused and looked back one last time. My father stood there, smaller, humbled. Lily stared at me with something that wasn't hatred anymore. It was realization. "You wanted to see what failure looks like," I said softly. "Now you know it's not me." Then I stepped outside, the wind cold but clean against my face. Forgiving them didn't erase what they'd done, but it freed me from ever needing their approval again. The phoenix emblem reflected in my eyes as the carriage door closed. For the first time in years, I wasn't the girl left on the platform. I was the one moving forward. The steady rhythm of the rails pulsed beneath my feet as the golden carriage carried me toward the city. Outside, the horizon burned with morning light, sharp, clean, and full of promise. My reflection in the window looked unfamiliar now. No longer the invisible daughter waiting for scraps of respect, but a woman finally stepping into her own name. By the time the train reached the downtown terminal, word had already spread. Reporters waited by the platform, cameras flashing like lightning. But I didn't stop for interviews or questions. I had one place to be, Harrington Rail headquarters. The glass tower shimmered against the skyline. I remembered walking past it as a teenager, watching men in suits stride through those doors, thinking I'd never belong in a place like that. Now, my name was on the ownership plaque beside the entrance. Ava M. Taylor, chairwoman. The elevator ride felt endless. My heart pounded, but not from fear, from the weight of something bigger than revenge. When the doors opened, a hush fell over the boardroom. Executives in crisp suits looked up, exchanging uncertain glances. Most of them had worked for my father once. Some had ignored my mother's emails when she tried to fight for her position years ago. I walked to the head of the table, laid my mother's letter down, and said, "Let's begin." An older board member cleared his throat. "Miss Taylor, with respect, you're young. This company is complicated. Are you sure you're prepared to lead?" I met his gaze without flinching. I grew up watching this company take everything from the woman who built it. I think I've been preparing my whole life. A few of them shifted uncomfortably. One man murmured to another, "She sounds just like Margaret." That name gave me strength. I smiled faintly. "You're right. My mother believed this company could stand for something more than profit. I intend to prove her right." I pulled out a small folder from my bag, plans she'd started but never finished. Renewable transport expansion, worker welfare programs, green tech investments. We're not just running trains. We're connecting lives. And from this day forward, Harrington Rail stands for every person who's ever been told they don't belong in first class. The room went silent. Then, slowly, one of the senior partners nodded. Then another. When the vote came through, it was unanimous. I stepped outside the boardroom, the city lights stretching far below like a sea of gold. My phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Dad, you handled yourself well today.
I was wrong about you."
I stared at the message for a moment, my chest tightening. I didn't reply. Some things didn't need words. Instead, I looked up at the massive painting in the lobby, my mother standing beside a train bearing the Phoenix emblem. Her eyes seemed to meet mine, calm and knowing. "I kept your promise," I whispered. I didn't fight to hurt them. I fought to rise. Outside, the wind rushed against the building as the evening trains roared to life. Somewhere in that sound, I heard the echo of my own heartbeat, strong, steady, and unstoppable. As I walked out into the fading light, the golden reflection of the rails glimmered beneath my feet. The world that once turned its back on me now moved at my pace. I wasn't the forgotten daughter anymore. I was the name on every ticket, every contract, every engine that carried people forward. And as the city lights shimmered around me, one truth burned brighter than all the rest. I didn't inherit power. I earned it.